Welcome to the Digital Transformations Project. In this short video, I'd like to show you how to create a discussion in LearnJCU Ultra. So let's log in and get started. So today, I'm going to be using my sandpit to show you how this can be done. As you can see here, I have a basic site structure. And the first thing I need to do is choose where this discussion is going to be displayed within my content. So the discussion I'm creating is about social accountability. So I'd like it to be inside the folder called Week 1, where I present this topic to my students. So I have a few other learning materials in there, and I want the discussion to be the third one. So click on the plus sign within that folder, and let's create this discussion. When you go to the Create button, you see that you have options for creating subject content items, but where you want to go is to the Participation and Engagement. And there you'll find the option to create a discussion. Now, the first thing I'd like to do is give it a title, Social Accountability. And I'm going to pick up the materials that I have predefined as being the guide to my students about what I want them to do. So behind my browser, I have a Word document where I've already defined a few of the things I want for this particular discussion topic. So I'm going to copy my instructions and paste them onto LearnJCU Ultra. So here we go. Paste. I'll make sure I have a title. Discussion, topic 1, social accountability. Let's make that title a little bit more visible and add some spaces. So what I'd like to do here is get my students to watch a YouTube video about social accountability, to immerse them in this topic. And then eventually I'd like them to discuss a particular statement that I have predefined. So the statement is right here. Does increased transparency lead to increased accountability? I've defined here, what do you think? Do you agree or disagree with this statement? And I've given them some basic instructions of how I'd like them to present their responses, including an example of a response. And I've also let them know that this discussion is not graded, but that the responses are critical to fuel one of our live discussions in a workshop. So now what I'd like to do is add the video that is going to prompt my students to think about social accountability. How do I do that? Well, you see I have a tab open with the video that I've chosen to create this discussion.
A mother is...
I'm going to pause that for a second and I am going to copy that link. You don't need to do this exactly at this moment, but you'll see how it'll come in handy. So for the video, let's say it's the first thing I want them to see. I'm going to click on the plus icon on the drop-down arrow just beside it, and I'm going to go to Insert Video from Web. However, just briefly, I'd like to show you how there are many other options of items you can insert here to prompt your students in this discussion, but to add information to it. So for example, you could insert a local file, a Word document, for example. You can insert files from cloud storage. You can insert a link to a website and so on. But what I'd like to do at the moment is insert a video from the web. So I'm going to paste that link that I picked up from YouTube, but you could do it at this point. So you could go back to the tab and pick up that link. And I'd like to call it Social Accountability YouTube video. And I'm going to insert. So there we go. My video is directly accessible to my students as soon as they open this discussion, and it should prompt them to discuss the statement I have previously prepared. So let's save that for the time being and have a look at what it looks like. I've got my title, I've got my discussion with instructions, and then let's have a look at some of our discussion settings. So in the simplest model of all, this discussion may not be graded, and I just want to use it as a trigger for conversation and participation amongst my students. However, I could choose a few different things as well. For example, I can choose to hide it from the subject content page. I don't want to do that. I want to leave it shown. You can choose, if you tick the post first box, to have the discussion hidden from students until each student posts a comment or a reply. That removes the influence of other students' posts towards the students that prefer to read everything and then do a post. So they can't really see any other posts until they do their first post. Now, I don't want that. I want students to see the post in real time whenever someone posts something. Now, the other thing is you can choose to make this discussion graded. When you tick that box, you will have to define a date by which they need to make their contribution. And you can also define how you are grading it, so whether it's points, percentage, or satisfactory and unsatisfactory, and what the maximum score for that is. And you can also add a grading rubric that you need to previously create for this particular assessment if you're going to have a graded discussion. So I just click there. For demonstration purposes, if you have a rubric that you've already used in a Word document file, for example, you'd have to bring it across, recreate that rubric within this particular area for your assessment. I won't do this right now, but just letting you know that you can use rubrics to grade discussions. Now, a few other things. You can explore goals and standards if you have this enabled in your particular course, and you can assign your discussion to specific groups. So quickly have a look at that. You have an option to see all your students here, and when you click on the plus sign to create a new group, you can name that group, let's say discussion group 1, and then you can proceed to add these students to each individual group. Now, I don't have a whole lot of students in this sandpit, so it makes it a little bit tricky. But this is briefly how you would assign a discussion to different groups. Okay, let's create that one. And for example, this is my student, sandpit student, a test student. I could add this student to group 1, and I could add Elizabeth to group 1. So these students could be assigned to a particular topic or a particular statement or a particular question in my discussion. Now, I don't want to save that. I'm just demonstrating at the moment. So I'll close the group section, and I will keep this discussion as not graded for the purpose of this exercise. I'll save. And again, you can always access these settings by clicking on the cog on the top right. Now, I can make this discussion available to students immediately, or I can set a conditional availability and set a date to when I want this to appear within my subject content. So I'm happy with how my discussion is set up. I'm going to close that, and I'm going to show you where it is. So for example, if I wanted to make it visible to students, what they would see is exactly this. So discussion topic 1, social accountability, with the little video and the prompts and instructions on how to respond to this particular discussion topic. Okay? Thank you very much for watching. I hope this short video was useful.